how far will the economy fall? We asked economic reporter Dan Banks for his assessment.
When we share information with each other, we are directly affecting those around us. We either make things better and we do good, or we make them worse and we do bad. For example, if I have a friend, and I know for a fact that a nuclear missile is going to hit our hometown within the next day, whether I tell him or not, my decision is going to affect how we both live. Because what we do is either good or bad, there's a definite right or wrong ethic to how we share our information. But these ethics do not only apply to individuals. The perceived role of the media is to inform others of events, and while they do this well, they do not always do it ethically. You can see from the examples that I've linked below, there are a lot of disputes over who should be able to share what and how they should be able to slant it. While they do have the intent to inform, this is not the only motivation they have. All forms of the press are directly concerned with communicating how they think that we should act or believe. And this is not inherently unethical. There's nothing wrong with an opinion. Pick up any magazine, watch any news channel. You'll see this. The press has the power to portray events as they wish in order to elicit a response. Now, there's a utilitarian ethical view that claims the value of a decision is in the outcome. It's called the greatest happiness principle, and it's defined by the action that makes the most people the most happy. For instance, if I could kill one man and save the entire human race, would I do it? Of course I would. And according to utilitarian principles, it would be ethical. Because the action of killing that one man, while it causes him to suffer, causes many more people not to suffer and to remain happy. But in the press, it is impossible to know the full effect of a portrayal of information. The utilitarian principle applied in this way is very wishy-washy and very ambiguous. There's no way to know for sure what good will come of it. Take the case of Joe Paterno, coach of Penn State. What happened was, the media jumped his death. They reported that he was dead before he really was. He was dreadfully sick and he was about to die, but what they published was wrong. He was not dead. When I say it was wrong, I mean it was factually wrong, but not ethical. See, this is an easy case to examine, because there's no gain for the media in getting it wrong and slanting the information. And as a matter of fact, I don't believe it was intentional. Of course it wasn't intentional. But there was absolutely no way to know that this story would be a nightmare. It probably seemed rather straightforward, an inherent easy ethical choice to deliver news and do their job well. Their choice was clearly not unethical, though it no doubt caused temporary suffering to those who thought he was dead. This is just one example of how the utilitarian principle fails to account for the ethics of the press. Almost anyone who pays attention sees the issues with our press. You hear people bicker about it all the time. But so long as there is a respect for differing opinions, there are definitely a few simple ethical guidelines that press can use to conduct their actions ethically, rationally, and at the same time, practically. It is unethical to report something that's not a fact, something that you know for certain to be factually wrong. Speculation is a different story, but for the most part, there cannot be a greater good in a blatant lie. Besides, in a competitive environment, there will always be people who will expose you, a majority of competitors who will hold you accountable for trying to pass a lie. Even if you feel it's a greater good, the outcome will not be a greater good, because your lie will not stand. This includes scrutinizing sources for mistakes or bias, because if you don't know it's a fact, how can you pass it on as a fact? So long as it is met that you are passing along facts that you know to be facts, it is ethical to slant facts however you may please. It's an opinion, and if someone sees the same facts, they may still arrive at a different answer, no matter how you present them. It's also unethical to report only some parts of a story, because any awareness that comes from the story is out of context and it's not full. It's also the reason that most would consider it unethical for misquoting someone, because you're taking it out of the rest of the story. You're not furthering what was originally meant, and you're not promoting a general awareness of the truth. However, there's no way to know if this is happening or not. The responsibility actually rests on viewers and the independence to hold unethical information accountable. Lies of omission are a bit sticky. That is, choosing not to report on something even if it did happen. This is not the same as what I just mentioned. For instance, if I choose to tell you about, say, the war in Iraq, and I leave certain things out, that could be construed as unethical, and I believe it is. But if I choose not to report on the story at all, it doesn't matter. The reason it doesn't matter is because in a competitive industry such as the media, someone will if they find value in that story. If someone thinks that people should know about what's going on in the rest of the world and you're not telling them, someone will. The moral here is, the main ethical principle that I'm trying to put forth is that the popular media should be checked and kept in balance by the viewers, by calling them out if they act unethically. The easiest way to make sure that you aren't the recipient of unethical information is to stop only relying on the news as a source. It makes us lazy, and if you can't rationalize that it is ethical to know something, the world is a big enough place for you to do the research. For instance, read magazines. It takes far more effort for someone to publish a respectable magazine article than it does for someone to post a YouTube video, for instance. They're far more carefully edited and scrutinized scholastically speaking. Written words are held to a much higher of a standard. Obviously, as we've all experienced in ethics, slip-ups definitely happen. Another case of this would be back to the Joe Paterno example. No one is perfect, and as we saw when the national media made that false report, mistakes are easy to make in such a competitive environment. Everyone wants to be the first one and the best one to share their information in the way that will produce the most happiness. The point of examining ethics in the media is not to point fingers at the media for mistakes, but to hold them to the same standards that people are expected to live by, a code of ethics. Whatever anyone chooses this claim to be, it does exist, and no ethical framework permits anything goes style mentality that has gripped national and multinational media.